and welcome to Game Brain, a board game podcast about our gaming group. I'm Ben Mandelker.
Hey, and I'm Paul Satachet.
There he is,
there
the
I
one,
am.
the only Paul Satachet. What is going on, Paul? How are you on this cold December night? The Ides of December.
Baby, it's cold outside.
It is. It is.
But it was colder in Alaska.
You were in Alaska. Why did you go to Alaska? Surely it was board game related, right?
No, I mean, like the board game of life. Like, it was my birthday, and I decided to go see the Northern Lights.
Okay.
And I went to see the Northern Lights. I was in Alaska, in Fairbanks, Alaska, for 10 hours. I went up and went down, and I got to see the Northern Lights.
Yeah. How were they?
They were disappointing.
Well, okay.
But let me be fair. To be fair, like, it was, when you go see the Northern Lights, they usually say, like, give it 3 days.
Give it, yeah. Okay.
And I gave it like 2 hours. So
that's a pretty short window. That's like on those cooking challenges where they're like, "Hey, you have 30 minutes to create."
This is the chopped
souffle. Yeah, and you're like, normally this takes 8 hours, but I've got to do it in 30 minutes.
Yeah. And so this is the chopped of like watching Northern Lights, and it was not supposed to be really. There was like a 10% chance of seeing anything.
Okay.
So I felt really lucky. Like,
you are lucky.
Thanks. The friendship. But like, what was really interesting, the thing was like, my friend now, like Tom's friend, drove me up to some mountain. And then he goes, "Oh, there's the Northern Lights." And I look at it and it's a cloud. I go, "You mean that cloud?" He goes, "No, it's Northern Lights." I go like, am I being gaslit? Because it looks like a cloud.
Maybe.
And so we took pictures and I looked at my camera and it was the Northern Lights. But to my eye, it was like a cloud.
Right.
And so I was like going, wow, I am freaking out here. Twilight Zone kind of thing.
But you got a picture. I mean, you sent me a picture that had Northern Lights on it.
Yeah.
It was a green glow.
Yep.
And either it was Northern Lights that you saw or you applied a filter and said, this is the Northern Lights.
Either way, that's right. Photoshop, baby.
And you were there in Alaska because it was your birthday.
Yeah.
It was your birthday.
Every year I take a trip.
Yeah.
So it forces me to get out of LA.
Yeah.
And there we are.
Let me be the first to tell you, happy birthday, Paul.
The first. You are absolutely
the very
first. That's right.
And Paul, even more so, I hope you're happy.
On my birthday.
I hope you're happy. I hope you're happy. I'm trying to make Paul sing Defying Gravity, and he's not taking the bait.
No. He's saying, I hope you're happy now.
Now.
I was waiting for the now.
I don't know the lyrics that well.
I hope you're happy. I hope you're
happy.
Now.
Okay, well, we are both. I wouldn't say we're defying gravity. I think we're succumbing to gravity.
We're falling.
We're falling down.
Submitting to gravity.
Submitting to gravity. The Game Brain podcast. Anyway, happy birthday. That's very cool that you got to see the Northern Lights. I saw Wicked last night, which is why I was trying to ham-handedly insert the lyric from Defying Gravity into this podcast. I listened to that song about 10 times in a row today. You would think I would have picked up some of the lyrics beyond I hope you're happy. But, we'll see. We'll see what we can do. But the point is, it's December. We're gaming. I haven't been on the podcast in about a month because I traveled back east. And then I went even further east after that, all the way to London, which was very exciting for me. As it pertains to this podcast, of course, I went to a board game shop.
Very good. Very good.
And of course, I did some shopping. But you know what, though? Before we dive into that, I just want to give a headline. We're going to do a deep dive on Shackleton Base today.
Love it.
Really excited. A game that I bought from England, so it ties together. But we are going to talk about that. We'll talk about some games that we got in over Thanksgiving, etc., and also some other recent gaming we did, non-Thanksgiving gaming.
Yeah.
But first, let me tell you, I went to London. And of course, I can't control myself. I'm running out of space in my office here where I keep the games. Rapidly running out of space. I hate getting rid of board games because I love them all, even the ones that are mediocre. I always like to feel like I'm going to come back to them and rediscover, something wonderful. I do believe in them.
That's right. Otherwise, you wouldn't have bought them.
Exactly. I'm like, is Paul trying to do a Wicked lyric? Am I missing something? It's like, you believe in them. I was like, that sounds like it could be from Wicked. so I don't like getting rid of my board games, but as I get new board games, it's evident that I have to start getting rid of board games. Like at a certain point, like unless I become really messy or I take over other rooms.
Storage space.
Storage space is an issue. So I said, Ben, don't go into a board game shop. No matter what you do not do that. You don't need board games. Because the other thing that happens to me, I don't know if this happens to you as much because you're not as much of a collector as I am.
I'm a tourist.
You're a tourist. My issue is that I walk into a board game shop and I tell myself, if you see something that's special, you can get it. But don't just don't just get anything. But then I go in and I get so excited about the idea of going to a board game shop. I just want to find something to buy.
Everything's special.
Everything is special. And if everything is special, nothing is special. But I wind up inevitably buying some random ass game. And I tell myself, well, maybe it's going to be a hidden gem or whatever, you know? And then I come home with a game like Don Juan, which we still haven't played, but that's what I got in Amsterdam. That's like the Don Juan card game. But the point is I wind up with kind of some junk, you know, because I get so excited about buying a game. So when I was in London, I said, don't even go in. Like, don't even do it.
We should not deny who we are.
I agree. And I said, I am going to defy gravity.
That's right.
The gravity of storage space. And I am going to fly like a witch who wants to buy a board game.
Like you just dance through life.
And so I went into this board game shop and there was a game. So I bought a game because I'd just seen it on Instagram and I knew nothing about it. But I was like, you know what? I just saw it on Instagram. I liked the way it looked. I liked the cut of its jib. And I liked, it seemed intriguing. It's a game called Fromage.
Mon fromage est en feu, which is one of the few French things that I know to say.
Wow, your cheese is on fire.
That's right. My cheese is on fire.
Alicia Keys, her ode to Saganaki. But it's called Fromage. I don't have the credits up. I'm sorry, everyone. I wasn't expecting to go this deep on it.
No one mourns the wicked, baby.
No one mourns the fromage. So anyway, this game Fromage just came out. I just saw it on at Unfiltered Gamer on Instagram, and it looked really cool. I love a board game whose theme is real world and also just different than the typical real world stuff we have. So Fromage, making cheese, I'm already sort of sold.
Sure.
So I'm standing there in the shop and there's like several people milling about and there's one copy of Fromage. And I'm like, do I just get it? Because I know it's new. And I know I saw it on Instagram. I was like, normally in these situations, I pull up the phone, I go onto BGG, I do some research, and I know if it's going to be for me. But then I was like, let's just get down to business here, which is this game hard to get? So I looked at 2 or 3 sites. It said pre-order available, sold out, and I was like, scarcity, baby.
That's right. There you go.
I was like, I don't even know what this game does. I don't know how it plays.
But it cost me X $1,000 to fly out here to pick it up, so I'm gonna pick it up. I'm like, all I know is that there's 4 people milling around this shop, and they seem like they don't know what they're doing, and they may just take this game because they see cheese, and I'm not gonna allow that. That's right.
I'm gonna be the one who's gonna take it because it says cheese.
That's right. That's right.
So I bought it. I went home and I promptly found it easily available online in like 2 other places. But
I'm not gonna lie, that's like one of the most Ben things I've heard you say in the last month.
But I will say this, it makes me feel so great about my decision. It still is actually not super easy to get. Fromage has been like number 1 on the BGG hotness for the past 3 or 4 days. So I'm like, I got the hotness, guys.
Well, you are always on trend.
Thank you. I feel if you looked at my fashion, you would know that intrinsically that I'm just so on trend.
Well, that's what makes you so popular.
I want to be popular. Yeah. So I was really excited about that. Actually, I actually think that Fromage seems really cool. I've since played it on BGA, where it's available. And it's a really cool game of it's like worker placement. There's basically a lazy Susan in front of the players, up to 4 players, and you are placing cheese on the Lazy Susan. It's like a wedge of cheese from a wheel, like a Parmesan wheel. Like your meeples are cheese.
Like, I just, every now and then I look at our hobby and I go, are we crazy? You know, it's just one of those things where like,
yes,
it's just like one that's like, oh, like who thinks of this?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like there's so in the best way.
There's a game for literally for everything.
Yeah, it's just like there's oftentimes such whimsy in the way that game designers, board game players like choose things. It speaks to like sometimes like a very what's like weight of the world on your shoulders, unburdened time.
Unburdened.
Yeah.
Like not grounded.
Like
you've been like, no, like if someone's trying to ground you and you're saying, no, I'm going to rise up to those who want to ground you.
Yeah. Like look to the western sky.
Look to the western. No, you're talking about like whimsy. You're talking about like a levity.
Levity, that's the word. That's the word.
Like this is actually a truly a no pun intended use of levity amongst like many awkwardly wedged in defying gravity puns.
Right. But like, you know, like you just described that cheese game, Fromage, and like you just use wedges and you're going like, huh. It feels so unburdened. So it makes me smile when you say that.
Exactly. And actually, like one of the reasons why I was even drawn to it on Instagram, which is how it landed on my radar, is I love the idea of a game based on making cheese. Sure. And it's all about cheese, and the art captures it. I don't know. Do you see? It's actually on the shelf there. Mm-hmm. I was gonna see if. I don't know if you can see the art from here, but it's a sort of like picture book, but actually like kind of fancy. I don't know how you describe it. Like the best way I could describe this kind of art is it old world? Would that be the way you would describe it? The cover of the box doesn't totally like give it justice. Like, you know, when they show like the old like a Guinness commercial and they have like drawings of people in Victorian eras.
Sure. Like now I look at that and I look at this is what Homer's cheese dream looks like.
Yeah, it's a little bit like the box itself is a little cloudy with a chance of meatballs because it's like it's a French countryside where the hills are actually cheese.
The hills are different musical. Everyone, different musical. Calm down.
But when you see the art, it's more like it's just like fancy. It's just I wish I were more articulate on this subject, and I'm not. But the art is very inviting, and what I like about the game is that you can understand immediately the sort of people you would want to play it with because it's very midweight, maybe even
light.
It might be light. I'm not sure. I haven't played it
great
with other people to know, but I know the people I'd want to play it with. But furthermore, I know what the vibe of the night is going to be.
Love it.
Like this game says, this is what your night is. It's not like this is what your game is. This is what the decisions are. It says, this is like, it's the same way that viticulture, you know, when viticulture first showed up, you knew it's like, okay, I'm going to invite people over. We're going to drink wine and we're going to play this game. And it's like, here's like, we're going to eat cheese. Hopefully a harder cheese that won't make a mess around the board game, finger etiquette. But, like this a game called Fromage, you know what music you're going to play, the type of people you're going to invite over, the snacks you're going to have, the vibe of the night. And I think that there's something to be said for that.
Sure. It sounds very Big Chili.
Big Chill, like the movie The Big Chill?
Yeah, not like the yogurt place in LA.
Or someplace that serves a lot of chili.
Yeah. Big Chili. Yeah, I guess.
Anyway, what I was saying before is how it plays is that, I'll say it very quickly, is that essentially all your meeples are wedges of cheese. And the places that you put them, the places are, you put your cheese down basically either at 90 degrees, negative 90 degrees, or 0 degrees, essentially. Like you basically have your cheese, the point of your cheese pointing at 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, or 9 o'clock. And then after you've placed all your meeples and you've gotten the benefits of doing that, you rotate the Lazy Susan. And now the segment that was in front of you is now in front of someone else. And now you have someone else's segment in front of you. And any of your slices of cheese that are now pointing at you, aka at 6 p.m., you get to pull those meeples back and then use them on the new segment. And so the point of the game, the shtick of the game is like you're timing these actions because when you place your meeple, you don't know, you have to plan when you're gonna get your meeple back. Mm-hmm. So the stronger actions will get more benefit. You usually have to wait for like 3 rotations before you complete your meeple back. I won't get in, just know that more important actions require more rotations, which means you have more time without that meeple. So you have like a certain amount of management of like Zolkin style of as the wheel turns and when you're getting your meeples back, we can do fresh actions. It sounds really cool.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Oh, I look forward to playing with you. Cheese and wine night.
There will be a cheese and wine night. And so I got the game and I was like, okay, got the game. And the good news is when you're traveling, you are also kind of limited by how much space is in your suitcase. So,
sure.
You know, like,
so you had to buy the game that you could get here.
The game that would fit. And, you know, it's like, it was a full size big square game, you know? So it's like, you know, after you get that, you can't get another game.
No.
You know?
So cheese is the gift that gives on giving.
It is. And, but of course that didn't stop me from getting another game.
Oh, well.
I kept going.
Yeah, you have to be you.
I had to be me. I wound up going to New York City and I got a game called Men-Nefer.
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 Men-Nefer. Okay.
Men-Nefer. Men-Nefer. N-E-F-E-R.
Is it Egyptian?
It is Egyptian. It's a game, the same designer as Bitoku, and neither of us like Bitoku. I know. Cringe.
Yeah, I know.
But again, it's hotness.
And
it's rare.
And you have FOMO problems.
I'm like, I'm a podcaster.
I need to do this. I don't want to do this, but I need to because that's who I am.
At some point we're gonna have to talk about the best games of the year, and this is one that has a lot of buzz. And our very own Sweet Elder loves this game.
Well, very good.
So I said, you know what? I'm getting Men-Nefer also. I don't know really much about it except that it's by a designer who designed a game I really didn't like. So it feels scary to get that, but I have a problem.
I'm just thinking of who's the designer? Like, so like basically Japanese mythology, like kind of.
Bitoku was like, it was sort of, it was like, what's his face, the director,
Miyazaki-ish,
yeah,
and so will Nefer be in that vein of mythological.
It's not it's just Egyptian. It's like it looks honestly like just pure Euro. It's just like it looks like there's this, you do this, and you get a combo and do this and this. It looks just like as dry of a Euro as a Euro can be. However, I will say this: the reason why I was like, I'm gonna get this is because I've actually heard it's really good.
Okay, great, love it.
So I'm keeping my expectations. I'm hoping that the sunk cost fallacy works in my favor. That like
because it always does.
Because I paid money for this, so therefore I'll be more more motivated to like this.
Has potential.
Yeah, because I spent money on it, so therefore I have to like it. Anyway, that's my shopping update, which is that I got those 2 games. I also got a game called Drop Holter, which we may have talked about that before. It's a little dexterity game where you like grab items. You have to like. You hold a bunch of random items in your hand and then you flip a card and you have to drop one of those items from your hand onto the table. And the first one to drop it on the table gets a point. But like there's trickiness because like you have different items in your hand and you don't want to drop the wrong one. So you have to like negotiate it through your palm.
I see.
It's a really fun one. So
I'll play that too.
Yeah.
You know why? Tourist.
You're a game tourist. Paul, have you gotten any good gameplays in recently?
Have I got any good games playing? Played White Castle Matcha.
Tell me about that, by the way. Speaking of Euros, how was that? What does it do? What does it add?
So
did you like it?
If you remember White Castle,
I do.
I'm going to just go real quick.
Yeah.
You have 3 bridges and area where you put the die.
Jeff, and Lloyd.
Exactly. Like, they're famously Japanese. And in this expansion, you add a 4th bridge, so 4 more dice, or a number more dice, and you have another place where you could put stuff. Like in this track, it's called Matcha.
Okay.
And ultimately, it kind of makes various if you remember White Castle, the training area kind of multiplied what was in the castle.
Yeah.
Point-wise.
Yeah, it was like as far as you could go up higher in the castle, and you would multiply that by like what your accomplishments in the training area.
And so the matcha does something similar. It multiplies certain things that for points at the end.
Okay.
As well as gives like the same. If there's a dice on the bridge at the end, you get the benefit again. So yeah, I thought it was really fun.
What made it fun? Like what made it successful?
I think ultimately, I think White Castle does really well with the fact that the action spaces in the castle keep on changing. The moment someone takes a card, you replace it with a new card, and then what dice actions would have worked before now have changed. So constantly, there's this tactical aspect about it that keeps on changing and keeps you on your wits. The first game, I just kept on getting punched, first by Matt, then by Jordan, and I just felt like so.
First game of matcha.
Yeah, we played 2 games, and I was like, oh my god, this is terrible. But terrible in a very
terrible.
Fun terrible, sure.
It's like that fun agony that we kind of
agony. Finagony.
I almost just started just with F and said agony, but that would have almost sounded like a slur to my people.
That's
so.
Right. So we will stick with fun agony. Anyway, but the second game, I remembered how to play the game better, and I played better, and ultimately I won substantially. So I like the game better because of that.
Yeah, naturally.
But
does that make you sort of like a matcha man? Like a matcha man?
Well, interestingly, we played it again without the matcha expansion on Friday afterwards.
Really?
We broke up and I taught, and White Castle is really. It's really good. I feel like some people think it's pretty dry.
Yeah.
Because it's just a lifeless Euro kind of thing, but really it doesn't overstay because you only have so many moves.
Yeah.
And and the tactical aspect of it constantly changing makes it fun to me.
Yeah. I really like White Castle. I've only played it twice. Mm-hmm. I forgot that I had ordered the expansion. In fact, I was gonna say to myself, I really like White Castle, and the expansion looks cool, and I always love getting expansions for games. But I said to myself, you know what? I'm not gonna get the expansion this time. I need to start editing,
mm-hmm.
and I'm not playing the game enough to warrant getting the expansion.
Totally understand.
And then I got a notification saying your expansion has shipped. I said, oh well, I guess I ordered that 2 months ago, so never mind.
That's right.
I was actually gonna just not get the expansion, and lo and behold, it came.
No, it's one movie that I remember. I can't say it was a good movie. It was a good movie. It was called
The Godfather.
Yes. Oh my god, I want to say
Fatal Attraction.
I want to say Dead Ringers, but it isn't Dead Ringers. It's basically Kenneth Branagh, Robin Williams, and Emma Thompson. And
Dead Again.
Thank you.
I didn't see it, but I remember.
And so Kenneth Branagh goes is trying to quit smoking, and Rob Williams goes you don't try to quit. You either are a smoker or not a smoker.
Mm-hmm.
And so or you quit or not quit. And so Kenneth Branagh goes throughout the movie, and then at the end, towards the end, Andy Garcia has a trach hole in his neck, and goes can I have a cigarette? And then puts it to the hole, and Kenneth Branagh goes, yeah, no, I quit. And so as for you, oh, I'm trying to trim down.
Mm-hmm.
There's no try. You either do or do not.
I just felt like this was gonna be the first step.
Yep.
And
I think
I had already ordered it.
No. I love it.
I'm excited to play it though. I actually really am. I was like, well, as long as I have it, because I really did like the White Castle. I love this duo of the White Castle and the Red Cathedral. I love the Red Cathedral, and I love the expansion for the Red Cathedral. And I'm probably going to mention the expansion again later on when we talk about Shackleton Base, because the Red Cathedral does something that I feel like Shackleton Base does times 3 in a way that I really like. So that's very cool. So you did not get to play Civolution, right?
I have not. Like, there was a point where I was going to play Civolution, and there was only a limited amount of time. So I watched an hour and 10-minute video, and then it didn't arrive in time.
Yeah, so you had to pick me up from the airport instead.
That's right. I got to pick you up there so I have like all the rules of Civilization
they're in your brain.
They're degrading in my brain because I haven't had the ability to actually exercise them.
Well, I'm sure we'll get to play it very, very soon. So Civolution is the new Stefan Feld game. It is, dare I say, the Stefan Feld hotness.
Well, you are a Feld head.
I guess I am a Feld head. I just feel like Stefan Feld, it's hard for him to generate hotness these days.
Sure.
In a world where there are these games like Earthborn Rangers and Arcs and like all these games that are like really heralded because they're not Euros, they're like campaigns or they're doing something kind of in that space. Pun not intended again. Something like a big Euro I just feel like Euros just don't make splashes anymore.
Sure.
Not like that. But Stefan Feld has done it because he has designed it's a civilization game that is a tableau builder / dice, not dice drafting. I forget when it came out. It was like all this talk about like it's a civilization game, but a tableau builder, but a this and a this and a this and a that. Anyway, I have been very excited for this game, but I was really worried that it's gonna be a tough sell with our group because not a lot of people in our group really are that excited about Stefan Feld.
They're not Feld.
They may say, but they're not. They're just not. Okay.
I hear you.
And this game, what's tricky about it is that it has dice. So people who don't like dice in our group or luck or randomization, that's going to cut them out. They may bounce off of it. It is a tableau builder, so people who don't like tableau builders like a Terraforming Mars or an Arc Nova, they may bounce off of it. It's not super high interaction, at least, or it's not pitched that way as super high interaction. So people who need to have like confrontation may bounce off of it.
They're all counterindications.
Yes, counteraindicate. Does that mean that
it means like here is something that may push it to the other way?
Yeah. And then on top of that, it has like an hour-long teach. So for people who might otherwise be interested in it but can't focus for
a rules
more
endurance
than
problem.
10 minutes, it's going to be a problem. So I was like, I don't know who I'm going to get to play this game with.
Sure.
This could be a problem, and it's stressing me out. So when I was abroad, Matt and I both got copies, and what I was so surprised to find out was that he's like, hey, I got it to the table. I got to play it. He played it with, I'm sorry. He hadn't gotten it to the table yet, but he said that Trey had played it and Trey really liked it. And I was like, Trey liked this game full of dice. And then Matt got it to the table before I got a chance to play it. And he was like, this is like my second favorite game of the year behind Arcs. And he played it with Drew and Jordan and Trey. And basically everyone's psyched to play this game. And it's like, I never would have thought.
So you don't know us, Ben. You don't know us.
I know.
You don't.
I've seen games from both sides now, and I still know nothing about games.
At all?
At all.
I've looked at games from both sides now.
But I'm shocked.
Yeah, no.
People are like into this game. I got to play it with Trey and Chris Bussey on Thursday. We didn't get to finish, which was a bummer because it's a long game. It's really good. It's really, really good. It is really fun. I'm sure this is going to be one we'll be reviewing very, very soon. I'm sure.
Sure.
But just want to flag that for people. Like Civolution is pretty darn awesome.
Awesome. Like, I feel like I saw that in the sense that like Friday, there was this like eye of a needle chance of playing Civolution. It was a big game night. It was like 16, 18 people. Yeah. And like the odds of playing Civolution are very small. But there was this one opening where it was going to be me, Jordan, Drew, and Trey.
Yeah.
And it could just happen. But then there was one other person that was going to be in the mix, and there was no way we could onboard her. We started too late.
Too much.
And so, because we are decent people and human beings, we played Sulkin instead, which I could onboard quickly.
Yeah. Which is the right thing to do, because
sure,
if you have someone who's not.
But I felt like throughout all of Sulkin, I could see Jordan's heart bleeding out because I think he really wanted to play it, and he was so close. I felt so bad.
Jordan. So poor Jordan, because he really wanted to play Civolution. I brought my copy. I guess he had a copy that he was toting around. I wasn't going to bring my copy because I know better. Like a game that, like a heavy game at Tom's, you're not going to start playing the primary game until 9:30 or 10, and it's going to take them 1 hour to teach. We would not have started until like 11 playing Civolution. But for some reason, I was like, well, you were the reason why I brought Civolution.
Because I said, oh, it's a trap, Ben. Oh, I'm going to walk in right into the trap.
I said, it's a trap to bring Civolution because I'm going to get my heart set on playing Civolution, and then I'm not going to really get to play it.
Yep.
And you said, Ben, walk into that trap. And I said, okay, I'll walk into it. So, but the thing is this, so we had too many people to play Avalon because there was like 17 people at Tom's, which is like a record. So it looked like actually it might be a night to play Civolution, because since there was going to be no Avalon, well, might as well break out into board game groups. And so there was a whole bunch of people around the Tom's big table, and then there was about 7 of us around the small table. And I dashed Jordan's dreams totally by accident, because I said, oh, Tom, you know what you could do? You guys can play Avalon, and we'll play something else over here. And Tom's like, yeah, oh, sure. Because, Tom acted like he hadn't played Avalon, in 3 years. He's like, oh, that's a great idea. Let's play Avalon. And I said, turned to Jordan. I was like, oh, I'm sorry, Jordan. I just ruined your Civolution.
then it must have been worse because after you took out his knees, the situation took out the other knee.
And then he had a second chance.
A second bite of the apple.
And it didn't work out. It's just not realistic. You can't do Civolution at Tom's game night. It's too much. It's too loud to teach it. Too much stuff you're focusing on. So
no, sometimes you want to be chosen. The universe wants to pick you. And I could see it happening. I could see all the pieces coming together. And I did my part. I go to the person who didn't know how to play. Oh, you can play that game over there. Blah blah blah. And she goes, nah. I'll rather play with you guys. And I'm like, well,
yeah,
I can take a hint. I can take social cues.
I mean, the good news is Sulkin is one of the all-time greatest games.
We played Sulkin instead, and I have to say that we just played basic Sulkin. We didn't even add the expansion. But I think what I really like is relearning just the bit of the game again. It's Sulkin is a game base Sulkin, I think, is limited in the sense that you're okay, I'm done. I know I might not win, I might not be the best, but I know what it is. But it takes a bit to get there, and then you haven't played it in a year or two, and you forget the strategy or whatever, and then you start relearning the strategy. You go, oh, that was I forgot about that. And one of the things that always bites you is you can either take something or put something down. You must do one of the two. Such a simple rule.
Yeah, and Fromage is similar to this. Fromage is kind of like a light Sulkin.
Oh, well, there you go.
Things are moving, and you have to pull things back.
And every time you're like, oh, I wish I could pull off now. I wish I could put down now. No matter how. So
it's never what you want.
Exactly. And so, especially if you want to play Civolution.
Yeah.
But it was fun.
While you were doing that, Tom wound up playing the brand new board game Hotness that is El Grande.
Classic.
This is classic. It's the only game he plays anymore. And then we played some light games, which we played Flip 7, I'm Kind of a Big Deal, and Bellarati. I've mentioned Bellarati before in this podcast. It's a great party game. They just released an English edition finally after all these years. I cannot recommend it highly enough. It's just one of these it's kind of I'm getting inside your head, you're getting inside my head of that genre of it's basically picture association. really, really fun. It's always a hit. Every time I play it, it's always really, really fun to see the way people associate things. So go check that one out. And again, like it finally has English distribution, and so it's like I just get it. It's so good. Families, etc. I'm kind of a big deal. Flip 7. I kind of want to fold this into discussion of games I played over Thanksgiving, which is I really only got to play light games. I gathered with friends and we played a whole bunch of light games, and I'm here to tell you how they all went and give recommendations because the holidays are coming up and people are going to be spending some time with their families. I feel like I've now road tested some good family games, and I can weigh in with some thoughts on like what are some good ones to play. So I played Flip 7. I got to talk about Flip 7. We played that while you guys were doing Avalon. I just mentioned it. I also played it over Thanksgiving with friends. Flip 7 is kind of a sleeper hit for me. Like this one is one that I think if word gets out about it, like this could be like a thing. It's so simple and it accommodates a very large number of players. I think it like theoretically goes up to 100 players, but you could accommodate a big group with it, which is really good. And all you're doing in the game, and I may have mentioned it on the last podcast, but all you're doing is you're saying, hit me or stay. It whittles down the blackjack thing, right? And that's all the game is. Hit me or stay. And there's a big deck of cards. You've got numbers in front of you. If you get a duplicate number from what you have in front of you, you bust. And so you're trying to avoid busting. And like the card distribution is that there's 1-1, there's 2-2s, there's 3-3s, there's 4-4s. It goes all the way up to 12, and there's 12-12s. So when you get a 12, it's really good because you want those points. But you don't want to be greedy after 12 because there's a good chance you might get another 12 and bust. So it's like, are you going to hold and bank those points?
Do you wind up reshuffling each time?
You go through the entire deck and then you reshuffle the deck. So you could do some card counting. I tried counting the 12s, and what I discovered by counting the 12s was there's so many 12s that I was at like
there's 12-12s.
There's 12-12s. I was like, okay, 10-12s have been played and there's 3 cards left. So it's like, it's like it's one of those things where like it wasn't like, okay, I know there's not many 12s left in the rest of the deck. It's like there's just constantly 12s.
Sure.
But it's really fun, and you get the excitement of push your luck. And Great. I don't know if you could hear us at our table, but like it was a lot of like, oh, and a lot of crosstalk and banter. Mike,
and you had mixed experience table there too.
Exactly. So Mike brought his girlfriend Lisa, and I don't think that she's a gamer at all. She was in it. She was also, Lisa is quieter. I get the sense that she's more of an introvert, and this was bringing her out of her shell.
Great.
And we also had like just funny stuff. Like Dimitri just kept on busting. Like, there's like 3 3s in this giant deck, and he got 3 and then a 3 again. And it's just like, it was hilarious. He wound up, I think, with 31 points at the end of the game and versus 200 points to the winner.
Are you trying to flip 7?
If you can get 7, here's where it's fun. If you can get 7 different number cards in front of you, then you get a flip 7, which means that the round ends immediately. You bank all those points, plus you get an additional 15 points. So there were 3 of us that got 6 distinct numbers, and all 3 of us busted because, of course, we had to go for it.
I don't know. You have to go for it.
But when I played in New York, my friend Lauren got a flip 7, and we were all cheering. And so this was a hit on Friday night. It was a hit in New York. So if you see flip 7, it's a great one for the holidays. The game's broken. Just so you know, the game's broken. No, it's really great.
Great.
Like
Love
I
it.
cannot like this one.
Can't wait to play it.
Yeah. Hollywood 1947. We've talked about it before. No need to retread it, but I will say that I played it in New York with my friends.
5.
We played it 5. Really fun. Then someone had to leave. We played it at 4. Still great.
Fun. Yep.
Honestly, someone else left. We played it at 3.
Oh,
still fun.
Love it.
It just works. It's just like there's something about it that like is really fun.
No, I mean
it just works.
Yeah. No, I no notes.
No notes. I feel like so. Hollywood 1947. Real quickly, social deduction. Some people at the table are patriots. Some people are secretly communists. It's like 1947 in Hollywood. Communists are trying to get a communist messaging into their movies. We're trying to rat them out. It's in the same vein as Secret Hitler or Avalon, but I find that it has like a softer edge than those games.
Sure, because you're making movies.
There's like a little bit of a silliness to it. So people who might find Secret Hitler to be a little bit too intense have liked Hollywood 1947.
Yeah, no, it's it's exactly like it's a more mellow version of a social deduction. You don't feel like you're lying as baldly to your friends. I think some people have a hard time with deception.
Exactly. It's a really lovely social deduction game, and it's small, it's cheap. If you see it around, that's also a good one. Played Ready Set Bet with my friends.
Ready Set Bet, baby.
Wow, what a dud.
What a dud.
I mean, the times that we've played it and we were screaming and there's so much noise and everyone's being...
Oh, you're being serious?
It was a dud.
Oh, no. I thought you were being sarcastic because it's only been loud enough.
When we play it, it's like we are hilarious. Screaming, and I was like, I brought it to my friends and played it, and they were just like, oh, okay, cool.
Oh, so my horse made it? Great.
Yeah.
That's... I don't know if that says something about your friends, Ben, because like that's...
Maybe.
Because like we've played it maybe 7-8 times, and every time like someone has a busted eardrum from yelling too much.
It is like full throated screaming.
Yeah.
And I could not believe it. I wonder if it was like there are not enough people. Maybe like a player count needed to be just a little bit higher. Maybe I think there's also an element with Ready Set Bet is that like someone has to get the ball rolling for
get permission to be that way.
Say like be crazy. And I was the one moving the horses, so they were just watching me and like, okay. And I was like trying my best, and like then I felt like a comedian bombing on stage because I was like, okay, horse number 7, is horse number 1 gonna catch up? Is horse number 1? And they're just staring at me, and I felt like an idiot doing a whole horse thing.
I'm loving that. That should have been recorded.
Yeah,
that would be a great TikTok.
It was awkward. So I still think Ready Set Bet is a great one, but just know like
it can miss.
It can miss. You may need to do some like
social engineering
to bring out the excitement. Just one, a classic, just still so good.
Yeah, can't go wrong.
So
no
good.
notes.
No notes. And then 3 of a Kind. This is a newer party game that we've discussed. I brought that around back to New York. Hilarious.
Sure.
This is a game, if you like just one.
Yeah.
3 of a Kind. Just, again, the pitch is there is a category, and then you're given 3 descriptors like funniest, loneliest, sexiest. And like, let's say the category is cheese.
Sure.
So like, what's the funniest cheese? What's the sexiest cheese? What's the loneliest cheese?
Let's do this.
Yes.
Okay. What was it? Sexiest cheese.
Oh, actually, this came up.
This came up in random conversation.
No, cheese was one of the things. Well, how do we do it?
Well,
okay.
So you just say what you think your sexiest cheese is. Like,
I'm going to say brie.
Brie is the sexiest cheese for you?
Yeah.
Interesting.
What's a sexy cheese for you?
Well, I was going to say...
It's like goopy, and like you can dip something in it and be sensual.
Like the joke would be Limburger because I'm a little dirty.
Someone could say that.
Yeah.
There was one that it was like things you might find in your refrigerator, and one descriptor was like most romantic, and my friend said half and half, and we said why half and half? She said because it's like 2 halves coming together.
Wow, she is special. So funniest cheese. Funniest cheese. I think sexiest. I would say Camembert because it's French.
Okay.
As far as funniest cheese,
Camembert sounds sexier than brie. They're very similar cheeses.
Yeah.
But Camembert sounds a little sexier than. Or could you even say raclette is a little sexy?
Raclette. Sure.
Although there's something about it, the way it gets shaved off that big wedge, that's kind of like blomp, blomp, blomp. It just like lands in a giant pile on some arugula.
Yeah. And V was in Switzerland, and there was so much raclette that the way she was describing it, that just makes me, ugh. Yeah. Funniest cheese.
Like I feel like a literal version, which I don't think would be my answer, would be like laughing cow.
Laughing cow, sure.
But I think like a funny cheese might actually be. Is Gouda funny? Gouda's kind of funny.
Gouda's funny. No.
Gouda's kind of funny. It's kind of like boom, 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 boom.
Like
it's Gouda.
Yeah. Like, I always have a fun time saying gorgonzola.
Gorgonzola. But I feel like gorgonzola is not funny.
Yeah, the Gouda, you hit it with the Gouda, I think.
I think Gouda is a funny cheese.
Anyway.
There was another one. I don't remember. What was our third one?
I don't know.
We got to move on.
Yeah, we got to move on. Like people, this isn't cheese talk. If you want to hear more about cheeses, stay tuned for our next podcast, Cheese Talk.
Cheese Talk. What people really want to know about, I think
moon cheese.
Blue cheese. I'd put blue cheese as something. I wish I could remember my descriptors from that day. It was really good. I mean, I still sometimes what will make me laugh is when we had a big debate about whether or not a California raisin is relaxing.
I was there for that.
Yeah, I know. That's why I thought that was. I always think about that game because what we did was we did like a house rules. We did a house rules experiment where we said, okay, don't just like come up with 3 things and we try to match. Let's pull out like 3 nouns and then 3 descriptors and see if we can match. If who matches on which goes where, sort of like marry, fuck, kill.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So the descriptors were, doesn't matter what the other 2 were, but one of the descriptors was relaxing, and then the objects was like California raisin and like a stapler and like a shoe. I don't know.
Sure.
And no, it was sushi.
Sure.
California raisin. I put sushi as relaxing.
Sure.
And I think maybe the other thing was like austere or serious or something like that. But you guys all put California raisin as relaxing. And every time I said, why in the world is a California raisin relaxing? And you guys all said, well, it's playing saxophone.
Dum, 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 dum,
like there's nothing about that is relaxing. I mean, it's not that it's agitating, but I don't think like I need to relax. Let me listen to a raisin playing a saxophone.
It's literally a raisin, like a grape chilling in the sun. That's what it is. That's relaxing.
No.
Okay.
It's not. It's it's actually upbeat. It's not. So I think sushi is relaxing.
Great.
Because sushi is meditative and it's
great. No, great. We all can be different.
The number of times I have thought about like whether or not a California raisin is relaxing. It's just, and there's some people who don't even remember what a California raisin is, but look it up. Look up the California raisins from the 80s and then tell me if you think that's relaxing.
Ben needs to know.
A bunch of raisins dancing left and right, doing some Motown.
Normally, I would say that the podcast needs to know, but in this particular case, Ben needs to know. He's losing his sanity, everyone.
Is the California raisin relaxing? Anyway, that was my update on.
Sure.
Oh wait, actually, let me tell you. Speaking of California raisins, or speaking of foods that have sunglasses, this game I'm kind of a big deal. Which features a pickle with sunglasses on the cover. Candace introduced it to me, and it's an interesting one. I don't know if it's fully successful. I think it's hard. The idea is that you're given a prompt, like explain your ability. Like Dimitri had one that said, describe your skill at answering interview questions. And then you're given a number between like -3 to +3. And on the positive end, you're supposed to exaggerate whatever you're describing. And then on the negative end, you're supposed to downplay.
Sure.
And so then Dimitri has to, in this case, talk about,
interviews.
His skill at interview. Yeah. And we have to decide, is he exaggerating his skill or is he downplaying it or is he being honest? And then you can ask questions. And so it's like it's weird in some ways, but it does what it needs to do, which is it generates a lot of like laughter and discussion. And also like what's weird is you learn about people because people start talking about themselves and you're like, are you being who you are? Or is this a persona you're adopting?
That's a bit.
Yeah. And it was very fascinating. Again, I think it's a flawed game, but if you're looking for something, if you see it in the store and you're thinking you might want a sort of game that's like a conversation starter, like the way Wavelength is, might be worth picking up.
Cool.
I don't think I'm gonna get it, but it was wild.
It was worthwhile for the time.
Well, what was hilarious is that Dimitri starts talking about, like, it says, describe your ability. Paul, how about you do it? Describe your ability at. Describe your skill at answering interview questions. Just do what you would do if you were playing this game.
Give me a number.
I'm going to say truthful.
Truthful.
So zero.
Zero. Is that okay? So what I hear is that when people ask questions, I'm especially about my competence in something, I really just answer them at the level that they require. They like most people ask questions that are not really the question. You want to answer the question behind the question. Like, are you competent? Like they won't say that. They won't say, are you competent? That's the question behind the question. The question they're asking is like, how long have you, tell me about your job. Tell me about your last job, blah, blah. They're looking for competence. And so you have to give the correct social cues that will express competence without saying that competence.
So that was a very nice answer. When Dimitri did it, he went on about 5 times longer. And we were all sitting there listening to him talking about his skill at interviewing. And we started to wonder, are we still playing a game? Or are we in Dimitri's therapy session? Like it was the most surreal, hilarious thing. And he's just going on. And he's talking about the movie he had made. And he talked about his sister. And he talked about this. And he talked about that. And like it went in so many different places. And I thought to myself, what is happening right now? But in a way, kind of amazing because
sure. No, like
when people start talking about themselves, even in a game situation, people just like talking about themselves.
No, I hear that. Although, like what you just expressed, is that your friend was having a stroke and you just laughed at him.
Well, it was one of those things like, guys, should we pause the game and talk about this with Dimitri? Right. It feels like he wants to talk about this right now. Like he has feelings about the way he interviews. He has insecurities about it. Maybe we should like pause the game and get into it. It was very, very funny. But anyway, check that out. I'm kind of a big deal.
Kind of big deal. Yeah. Ben won't buy it, but you should.
I won't. Well, the reason why I'm not going to buy it is like there's some weird stuff. So like Trey had one that said, describe your love of Renaissance fairs. So Trey started talking about how he hates Renaissance fairs and oh my God, they're the worst things in the world. He never wants to go on, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, okay, is he exaggerating? The thing is, describe your love. It says, but the scale is on exaggeration versus downplaying. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like what he's saying is really exaggerate, like, because he hates it so much. It sounds like a big exaggeration, but it's an exaggeration of his hate so is that like actually like a downplay? And so it sort of gets lost in its kind of.
What was he, a 3?
He was like a negative. He was like a -3 or something. So he was like a downplay.
So he actually upplayed the negative amount of that he.
Yeah. So it was like a double negative.
As opposed,
he was not downplaying. He was not downplaying his love, but many people fell into that trap.
Yep. Sure.
And so I think that's where the game is flawed. Is that it's sometimes actually hard to wrap your mind around what the assignment is.
Gotcha. Well,
sometimes like just recording a podcast itself.
No. Like you just find yourself looking yourself with loathing, unadulterated loathing. Yeah, that's wicked.
Oh, is it? I was like, I feel like Paul is doing something with Wicked, but like I just don't know Wicked.
Loathing, unadulterated loathing.
Oh yeah, when the two of them didn't like each other. Thank you. I like that. See, you know Wicked better, so you'll have to spearhead.
Wicked was.
Listen, Paul, no good deed goes unpunished.
There we go. There we go. So just everyone should go see Wicked because it's the thing right now. And even if you don't like music, but like I went to see Wicked on Broadway, and this is going to be 2 minutes. Okay. And I was not a Broadway person. I was buying scalp tickets. It was like $170 for a matinee on a Saturday. And I go, is this really going to be worth it? Because I'm going to be pissed if it's not. Because I'm poor. Well, I wasn't poor, but like I don't spend money on this way. But he goes, yeah, it's totally worth it. And he did not sell it at all. He was just like,
the ticket guy said that?
Yeah, he did not try to hard sell me. And I go, okay, fine. I'm in the mezzanine. I'm like, oh, look at. I guess they spent a lot of money on the decor, like because. Anyway, and then by the end of the at end Defying Gravity, I'm on my feet clapping, near crying, going, "Oh my God, it's so good! It's so good! It's so good!
I know,
it's totally worth it. 170, totally worth it."
I played Defying Gravity like 10 times in a row, and like I kept on like, when it hits like that certain part, and I like start to choke up. I'm like, why am I choking up? I'm sitting here making cookies and I'm choking up, but it's so good. Oh my God. I have not actually seen the musical, but just I've seen the movie, and I know that song.
Sure.
Speaking of Defying Gravity,
Let's go to the moon.
let's go to the moon.
Yeah, love it.
The place to defy the gravity. Shackleton Base, A Journey to the Moon.
Whoa.
This is the formal name.
Okay.
This game, it's designed by Fabio Lopiano and Nestor Mangone, who did Autobahn.
I like Autobahn.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Fabio Lopiano has done other games like Merv, Kalamala, things like that. Art is by David Sidbon. So in Shackleton Base, the shtick of the game is that we are going to the moon to build a big old space base, a big base on the moon in the Shackleton crater, which I believe is a real crater on the moon.
Sure.
And we are all doing it, and we have to make the best base. But some may say we need to be an ace of base.
Well, I saw the sign, and it, truly, it opened up my mind.
When I see Alphabet, you know what I think? All that she wants is another baby.
Life is demanding without understanding. You know that, right?
Thank you to the 3 listeners we have left. Somehow doing some cross-pollination of Wicked and Ace of Base.
Just so you know, it's pretty late.
I just want to say it's 10 o'clock on a Sunday.
So forgive us.
Forgive us, please. So we're building a base on the moon. And because this is just the way life goes, the whole endeavor is being underwritten by 3 different corporations. And so the goal of the game is to make not just the best base, but you're also trying to curry favor and win over the hearts and minds of our corporate overlords in this game.
Hey, it does. You can't get to the moon for free.
Nope. So we're doing things like we are building structures onto a map. We are building a card tableau, which in the parlance of the game is funding projects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's basically buying cards and you're putting them in front of you, and you're basically just doing those two. Those are the main things. You are also you are managing your player board. You are, I would say that's that's kind of like the big 3 things, and there's some area control in it. Mm-hmm. But basically, on your turn, you can do one of 3 things, one of 3 major things, which is that you do like a standard worker placement thing, which is you can build, buy a card, or do some ancillary actions that are called corporate actions. Instead of doing that, you can decide to activate the Lunar Gateway, which is a way that you can get astronauts from the board and put them onto your player board, which you need to do. That's going to get you income. It's going to get you discounts. It'll give you endgame points. You want to get meeples to live on your player board. And the last thing you can do is you can put meeples out on the perimeter of this Shackleton crater, and you can activate all those juicy buildings that you just built, which then creates this kind of tension of, well, I want to activate this row of buildings, but maybe I build another building on top of it. So that way when I activate it, I get more stuff. But then if I wait too long to activate it, someone else might do it, and I may lose the opportunity. That's kind of the game in a big nutshell. Right?
Yeah, no,
Yeah. Would you say? I feel like I didn't miss anything major.
There are other tracks that allow you to move up, so you can pick things like the corporate track.
There's a reputation track. There's stuff like that. But the big gist is you're building buildings on the moon, activating those buildings, developing a card tableau,
and getting people to put on your base,
and doing an area control to gather stuff. That is the big gist. It's a huge simplification of what the game is about, but it is as much as you need to know on a podcast.
Yeah.
without boring people to tears.
Yeah, but I think what makes the game interesting is there are 6 corporations, right? 7?
There are 7 corporations.
And you play with 3. And the mix of 3 that you pick actually changes the complexion of the game radically.
Yes.
There are some that are really hard, like difficulty ratings of 3 or 4. Some are 1s, but they will interact with each other in a way that will always make the game different.
Mm-hmm. The difficulty I've discovered is it's not that all the corporations on their own are very simple to understand. It's like it's not really challenging, but what I've discovered is that the difficulty seems to be the way that it interacts with other corporations. So certain corporations interact with other corporations in a really pretty simple way, whereas the more advanced corporations, when you play with them, the decisions become much harder, I find. And I feel like that's where the difficulty really comes in, is like trying to figure out how I'm going to like do the things for that corporation.
I wouldn't even call it
needs.
the juice. I call it juicy.
Juicy.
Yeah, as opposed to difficult. Like, I think that's where like the mechanics of the games is really simple, right? Like I think you figure it out. Like I remember like when we played first time with the asteroid defense one, and like so there's one corporation where like there's an asteroid coming to hit you. You have to deal with the asteroid, or it's going to hit the moon somewhere. And if it's your part of the base, then like that part of the base dies and you lose points. Mm-hmm. And we didn't finish this game, but like we're playing and people were like dealing with the asteroids. If we had continued, we would have found like the asteroid was going to hit only where my stuff was, and I hadn't contributed at all.
Yeah.
So I was going to go down like negative half my points if it wasn't addressed, and then no one's incentivized to go. Well, I want to see Paul burn.
Yeah.
And so now all my like in that particular game, my game would have had to radically shift, to deal with something in a way that was not what I had planned.
Well, it's almost like it's a yes and to the juicy thing, because it's like, yes, it's a juicier decision space, but in some ways it is also difficult because the easier corporations, the way they interact with other things, it's kind of easier to find synergies with them. Mm-hmm. Like you can activate one over here and funnel that into another corporation. Whereas when you start getting the more advanced ones, it's harder to do that funneling and synergies, the synergistic behavior. And that's the last game I played had 3 of the more advanced ones.
Which one did you play with?
I played with robotics, and the farms, greenhouse, and then the
Mars.
No, I haven't. I actually have not played to Mars yet. That's the most complicated one. Not been able to do that one yet, but this one was the skyline, the asteroid thing. And it's just like, it was really, really hard. It was like, how do I do this? How do I make this work? How do I get this all to come together? And it
takes now over me. Sorry guys, 10 o'clock.
Defying gravity. So you're what I found is like, it's like you're kind of, you feel a little bit more like you're walking in slow-mo through muck and molasses, and you're like, how do I, or like you're holding a squirming child and you're like trying to just get it to work. Whereas the lower level corporations are usually simple things like turn these things in and you get a perk. Yeah. Turn this in, you get a perk.
But even then, like with the space tourists, where like you get these space tourists and now they're mucking up your game, your base, and you want to put them out into like touristy parts of the so like it all does what it needs to do. I think you can adjust your game to have different complexions. I think that's what the variety of it's really good.
Yeah, the fact that there are all these corporations is wonderful. And here is where I call back to the Red Cathedral expansion.
Sure.
What I really liked about the Red Cathedral expansion is that it comes with like a ton of modules. And I forget how many. Is it like 8? And maybe 8, maybe more. But the way that you determine which modules you're going to play Red Cathedral with is that you shuffle the module cards, and you flip over one and you just plug that into the game. And now that's the module you're playing with this game. And it creates a whole bunch of like variety in that way. And that's how this game is. When you set it up, you just sort of choose 3 at random and you're like, oh, okay, these are the 3 we're playing with. Let's see how this goes. And look, I've played the game like 6 times now, and I still haven't played with To Mars, which is the most complicated one. Not because I've been avoiding it; it just hasn't come up in the shuffle. Yeah. So that just shows like, wow, I'm already this many games in, and there's still a whole corporation I've yet to touch.
Yeah.
You see this SETI, which is out right now, has a lot of buzz. We will, I'm sure, be talking about that very soon on the podcast. also has kind of this modularity with like aliens that you can find, and you flip them over mid-game and you find out what they are. I just think that this is such a smart way to add like modules and variability to a game, as opposed to last year when we talked about evacuation, which I love evacuation, but the rules were like, you can play it this way, or you can play it this way, or if you want, you can play this way. And here's an advanced mode, and here's another module you can add in. Mix and match the modules as you want, and you kind of feel like
you're kind of like lost in the decision.
Yeah. And so I like that the game sort of comes with a just shuffle 3 up and just choose.
Sure.
You know? And it doesn't, like with evacuation, it felt like, oh, there was a right way to play. You had to find the right mix.
Yeah, 100%.
You know?
Otherwise, it wasn't going to feel right.
It wasn't going to feel right. But this is not saying, oh, this is the right way to play. This is saying, hey, this is how we make modules work, which is like, you don't have to do the heavy lifting of deciding which ones to do. Just like shuffle and just go.
I think one of the reasons why I like that approach is because like dominant strategies are going to emerge for different mixes, right? And it's just up to you to find them, as opposed to like, I'm going to play this one way. And if I play, if this module comes in, I'll play this way. When you have the ecosystem and the random, not random, it's not the mixture of those three, I think what happens is it forces people to engage the game more. Yeah. Like if like you really are using your beginner's mind every time you play it. I mean, like for at the level, at the number of plays that we've had. Yeah. But like, it's so easy to expand. This
I cannot wait for more corporations, because the simpler corporations, again, they're usually things like when I interact with this corporation, I'm usually just going to turn in resources and get a perk as a result of it, which is not very sexy. But there's actually something valuable about it, in that, like, if you have a more complex corporation, then it's nice to have kind of a straightforward thing. It turns out. So I forgot what I was going to say about this, but I like that. I feel like, by the way, I feel like one thing that we failed to do is really explain what we mean when we talk about the corporations in general. Like in this game, every corporation has its own player board, and it comes with its own set of rules. It has its own thing, and there are ways to interact with these corporations. There's 2 different ways to interact. Sometimes there are things called corporation tokens that when you activate them, the corporation's going to give you something. So like there's a robotics corporation, and when you activate a robotics token, you get a robot. And you usually activate these tokens because they're on the map. It depends on where you build and yada, yada, yada. But so a lot of times you're getting these things from the corporations by activating these tokens. Another thing in this game is that you can do something called a corporation action, which if you've played Great Western Trail, it's sort of like an ancillary action. It's usually a small... These actions are all over the place. Like maybe you'll get like a resource from it. Maybe you'll get some reputation. But a lot of times you use it to interact with these corporations. And it's through that interaction with the corporations that you get to do the things like handing in a resource and getting a perk.
Like basically, it's all some version of like building your engine to get points. Like, but like how the engine is built really varies on what corporation's combination there is.
But not only that, every corporation comes with its own set of cards. They each have their own little deck of cards, and there's always 2 cards that are available for purchase. And so the order in which the cards become available will also really impact
100%.
So it's not only do you have variability in terms of having all these different corporations, but if the card flop is a certain way one game versus another game, it has a drastically different feel.
And here's the thing, like it sounds like it might sound complicated. It's actually so accessible.
Yeah.
It's like you do. Oh, okay. And I think that's one of the things that I really like about the game is that the rules overhead is pretty low. Like you could.
It's weird. It takes a long time to teach, and I don't understand why, because I actually feel like it's such a straightforward game.
Yeah, it's one. It falls in that valley, the crater of games where like long teach, but easy understand, as opposed to like a long teach and hard to understand.
Like Avatala, sort of. Yeah, it is surprisingly accessible. Like you had mentioned before Space Tourist. There's a corporation where space tourists will come to the moon and they will first arrive. If you receive space tourists, they first go onto your player board and they clog up your player board because those spaces, like we said before, you want to put meeples on and you don't want to have tourists on there.
You want workers, people who are there to work.
Yeah, they're there to work. The moon is for working,
Yeah.
not for touristing. Elon Musk. So what you want to do is you want to get cards that have places for your tourists. It's hard, it's sort of hard to say, but like certain cards have little boxes that you can put tourists on.
And then you get points for that, money for that, or whatever.
Our first game that we ever played, we were playing with the space tourists, and the first 2 cards on that deck were not cards that you could put astronauts on. I'm sorry, tourists on.
Yeah.
So we were not motivated to get those cards, and therefore we were also not motivated to get the tourists.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, and that caused us to focus much more on the other 2 corporations.
Sure.
And then we were being very intense over there. So that already created a dynamic on the game state. Yep. And then eventually,
someone dove into.
I think
tourists.
I was the one who was like, you know what? I'm going over to. I'm going
to zig
because everyone's going. It's too competitive over there. I'm going to go into the space tourist, and then like all of a sudden, space tourist starts to blow up because the cards start to move. Fascinating the way that worked out.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. The thing that I really love about the game, though, corporations aside, the map play to me is chef's kiss.
Chef's kiss.
Just like that. It's. I think the map play in this game is exceptional, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
The map play has elements to me that it reminds me of Brussels 1893.
Okay.
Where when you place a meeple on that one main board in Brussels 1893, you're not just doing it because of the action that you want. You're also basically making a bid on an end round bonus. Sure. And you're also trying to get some sort of area control for another endgame bonus. You're considering 3 different things at once. And this game sort of has that feeling. It's like when you put a building down on the map, you're thinking about what
tokens nearby.
What corporation tokens nearby that I can activate so I can deal with that corporation. I'm thinking about what resources that section of the moon can give me.
Yep.
I'm thinking about what benefit does that building give me if I'm able to put people on it on my player board. I'm thinking about how does this increase my presence in this row and that row and that row. And I'm also, and that's just like for putting a single building down. I'm also thinking about like in just preparation of building the building, do I have the resources for it? What shape building can I put out? What
power do I need for the building?
It's
a lot.
It's shocking how much goes into the decision of just putting down a single building.
And yet, as much as you describe that, I don't remember it taking a lot of AP.
You're like a robot because you said to me, Ben,
that's right.
You said, Ben, I don't mean this in like a shady way, but you said there were really difficult decisions in this game. What were they? I was like, Paul, everything is a difficult decision.
I remember that now. Yeah, yes. Like my experience of it is like, oh, like here's the math. But the last time I was on the moon, like I have some some experience with it. So, but like it's interesting because how there are games that like you just take to. One might take to. I feel like forever the pieces of these of this like really come together for me.
Yeah, you see the Matrix with this one where I have a much harder time. But like that's because again, I get lost when there's so much to think about. Sometimes I get lost in it.
Sure.
Because again, you're thinking about all these things. If I put out this single building, if I put out a small building, this will help my income, but it's not going to be good for building my presence on the map. And I need to build the presence up because at the end of the round, if I have the most presence in this row, if there's a meeple there, then that means I get to take that meeple and put it on my player board. And when a meeple's on my player board, now the dome that I just built will start to generate income for me. So I really want to build this. But like, I don't want to do the single because I want to do the double building because I have a whole other set of motivations there. And I wind up going down these splintering decision trees that are like amazing.
No, they're great. Like, yeah.
And then there's also that element that I love of, like I want to build here because I want to activate this row. Or actually it's more like I build here. I want to with a small building and I want to activate it next. But if I activate it too early, I'm going to give a chance for other people to build in this row, in which case they may take the meeple that I'm trying to get via the area control.
Yeah, no.
I hope this is making sense to the audience. I'm actually afraid it's not making any sense at all.
Suffice it to say, like, it works. It works in a way that is, I think, pretty accessible.
Yeah,
and it's rich in its gameplay. I think that's why I like about it. Like, I wouldn't say that the game is like. I think I've been an advocate for a game that is like low rule set but deep, ramifications. Mm-hmm. I don't know if this has the same depth of ramifications, but there's a simplicity in how it interacts where I admire what it is doing.
Well, you know what it is? It's like I guess what I'm trying to express, even if all these things that we're saying don't totally make sense because you don't know the rules, what we can say is that the map building is extremely dynamic. And considering how simple the rules are in terms of like, you just place a meeple here and you're going to build something, like the amount of dynamic qualities to it is really, really fascinating. And then there's this whole other layer that when you build on the map, if you're going to build in a new area, you need to power it with a solar panel. And you have to build a solar panel, which is an optional thing you can do. And when you do that, you're going to add energy to the moon's communal bank of energy that anyone can use. And so the more energy you put in that bank, the easier it is to buy cards, because buying cards requires energy. So people can benefit from you expanding because that means that they can go into cards. But the other way around is like, if you want to buy a lot of cards, you might need to generate a lot of energy. So you may also build solar panels that creates energy for you to build your cards. And those solar panels are available for anyone to take. So that means it's easier for people to build. So it's just, I love a game that has this kind of thing where like, I'm going strong in this, and it sort of the way Brass does. I'm not saying this game is like Brass, but I love, it's like, okay, I'm going to go hard in getting cards, which means that now it's going to be easier for someone else to build.
Sure. No.
And that's going to motivate someone else to do something.
Yeah, no. Ecosystem. We're big ecosystem people.
Yeah. I just love that.
Yeah, no. I really enjoy it. What I hope they do is they make a corporation expansion as opposed to try to like add to the game and then add corporations.
No, just corporation.
Yeah, like because you could you buy a pack for 20 or something like that, and I think that would just keep on making it.
Yeah, I think it's like this could be a whole system. Also, I have to say the management of the player board is a really fun puzzle.
Yeah,
deciding which buildings to put out. It's just clever. It just feels really smart. And we didn't even talk about the fact that on top of everything, there is a whole other game that's being played, which is how you organize your
meeples on your board.
Your meeple management, because your astronauts that you're using are different colors, and so you get different perks by doing different color meeples in different places.
They're basically different special, an engineer, a bio person, blah blah. And so you need to put them in the right bubbles, the right domes, and you'll get the various benefits from that. But then if you put this engineer into this bubble, you don't get to put it in this bubble, which just gives you more money and blah 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 blah.
A lot of times what happens is that you have maybe a yellow astronaut. Mm-hmm. When you build with a yellow astronaut, you get a super strong bonus of being able to activate a corporation token. But alternatively, we touched on this, that you can generate resources from the moon, and you can put an astronaut around the rim. Basically, you have your crater, and you put a meeple on the perimeter of the crater, and it points at a row of hexes. And you are going to then plunder those hexes for goods. So yellow meeples will generate resources from the hexes. Red ones will get money. Blue ones get corporation stuff. So let's say you want to build, and you're like, well, I need some titanium to build. So you're going to send your yellow astronaut out to the moon to go plunder and get resources. And so you get your resources I finally have my titanium, but now you don't have a yellow worker to build and get the synergy.
It's rough.
And that's like, there's so many moments where like, oh, I want to do this, but no, but I only have one yellow worker left. Do I use the yellow worker to get resources one last time? Do I do it to get a better build? Do I do it for this? It's wonderful.
No,
I love it.
I think this is one of your favorites of the year, I think.
It is one of my favorites. It's probably my number 2 of the year. It might be number 1. I can't tell because we'll have to circle back to that. But it's
you play another game of Civo.
No. This one's definitely like it's about Railways: The Lost Atlas at this point.
Atlas is Atlas is good.
Atlas is really good.
Yeah.
I would say this, by the way, there are some drawbacks to this one. I think the rule book is rough.
Okay.
It's like a translation, and it's good luck.
München.
I think it's maybe from Italian.
Okay.
But just know that going into it, the rule book is not great. But like that's really honestly for me, that is like my only real drawback. I think everything else kind of like works. What do you think about the interaction in this game in terms of the style of the interaction?
I think in our group, it works well for me, partly because I feel like for whatever reason, the games that we've played, I've had a little bit of an edge in my placement on the board, and it infuriates people, and then like I feel more powerful and blah, 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 blah. That said, I think the game itself forces real consideration of where you put your stuff, because the ramifications of that when at the end round and to get the to get the end round bonuses, it's really important. Like you like one of the things that I do in the game just is I get my six dome out quickly, and so because I get my 6 dome out quickly,
the 6 dome is like the largest building, and it's a big one.
And ultimately, I almost guarantee 2 dominant rows because I'm just I have 6 there already, and so in that way, like people haven't found a way to play against that yet. For whatever reason, people haven't done that, and so I think once that gets beaten, now that I've said it to everyone, then a new meta will have to come about. So I think it's good.
I mean, I will say that the last game I played, I managed to win by 2 points, which is the first time I've won. And people had their big buildings out and,
early.
Like maybe the first half of the second round, but not the first round. Yeah. I mean, every now and then you can get out in the first round. It's really hard, but
that's what I strive to do.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. It's I mean, it also feels like there's just a lot of variety in the strategies you can employ, and
100%.
like how you manage that player board is really fascinating.
Yeah, I'm thinking about. I don't know if I've played with 4. I think I've only played with 3.
Oh,
so that might really impact.
Player count is actually good to bring up. I have not played at 2, but I played at 3 and I played at 4. 4 is really intense.
I can imagine.
There's like a lot of stuff going on. There's people are taking up spots
quicker,
faster than you can, and you also don't know always sometimes it's hard to know what the flow is in terms of like it's hard to know where the hot spots are going to be. Like sometimes the corporation actions just get totally like they're ignored the first 2 rounds, and the last round everyone just goes from, because the worker placement works in the way that there's 3 main actions you can take for the worker placement, and each action is like a row, and there's like a certain number of spots on that row. And so like if you want to take that action, you put your meeple on that row, and it gets more expensive, and then once those spots are taken up, that action can't be taken anymore. So like sometimes out of nowhere there'll be just like a run on one type of action, and I just feel like with 4 players it just feels like some of those rows close up really quickly. But it's great. You have a lot more decisions with 4 players in terms of piggybacking on other people's expansion. We talked about how if you want to build in an area of the moon that hasn't been built on, you have to get like a solar panel, but maybe solar panels are expensive, so you sort of wait for someone else to build, and then you build another building where they just built. So like with 4 players, there's more competition, but there's more piggybacking, like sort of like
sure.
sneaking onto the same hacks as someone else. So I think that interaction is really good.
Yeah, no.
I think it's really dynamic. There's a lot of it. It's not superficial interaction. It's not like they just tacked on something so that way you're forced to like do some sort of like, you know, surfacey kind of thing. Like you really care about what people are doing. And it's really going to affect all your decisions that you're going to make. Word. Yeah, I love it. The one caveat to all this is that the game does not seem to be readily available yet in North America, but it's going to come. I got this.
So here's your advanced warning, everyone.
This is advanced warning. This is basically to say, like, if you see it, once it starts coming over here, if you see it, in my mind, I say, like, auto buy it.
If you don't like it, Ben will buy you a new car.
I will buy you a new car. A small car in the shape of a toy. But it's really good. I think this is Fabio Lopiani's best game. I like it more than Autobahn.
Yeah.
Because I think Autobahn's great, but it has like some inelegant elements.
Yeah, I feel like this is a lot more
refined.
It's
like a tight operation.
Exactly. Like in Autobahn, which I liked, you know, if I feel like Amadeus, where it goes, oh, maybe a few too many notes. You know, whereas this has like the right number of notes for what it's trying to do.
Autobahn has the color coding going on, which I like. I think he does a great job with that. And as a designer overall with his work, he does a lot of stuff where like people benefit from someone else's actions. And that happens in this game. If someone activates a row and you have structures in that row and they don't, they have to pay you potentially.
Yep.
And you start with 4 players, that happens. You start getting more of that and more like back and forth in terms of getting payouts. So, but I feel like this has been, I think Shackleton Base is is like the game where he's taken all his ideas, and he's not the only designer, but like, I just feel like the tropes that you see with his work come together in like
integrate well
in the most elegant way.
Right. Yeah. No.
You know, it's a great game. I can't recommend Shackleton Base highly enough. I think if you see it, I'm excited for it to come to stateside. I don't know when that's going to be, but I think it's so fun. Like every single game, and it's hard. Yeah, for me, not for you. You're a robot. We all sat there the other night going, "This game is so hard. It is so hard." So I guess that's really it, huh?
Yeah, I guess so.
Do you have any other thoughts you want to say about this game?
No. I think first of all, like if it feels a little like you listen to this and you go like, I don't actually know what the game is. We apologize. Just know that it's good, and you should. Yeah,
I'm like, just because sometimes it's hard to describe on a podcast. Because although I could sit here for 10 minutes and tell you exactly how the game plays, and no one wants that.
Yeah.
Just know that you're building things on the moon.
Exactly.
And you're trying to activate them.
Yeah.
And it's all about sequencing. When do you activate it? When do you build? And then how do you do all those things while also building a tableau, while also trying to fulfill obligations for these corporations? There's also, we didn't talk about, every corporation has a race. So you're racing against other people to get to certain sort of requirements.
Yeah, I guess I'll add this. Hearing you talk, I never feel like I'm playing against the game. I feel like I'm playing against the players. I think that's how it's different than Autobahn a little bit. Autobahn, it feels like it might be a little too baroque, you know, in some ways. But like here, everything's so elegant where I go like, oh, Ben is doing this to me. I am doing this to Ben. Trey is doing this. Blah blah blah. Like the game is not in my way.
Well, there's like a tactical element I find with this game, which is that Paul just built there, so that is going to impact my decision making, because now I think he just created an opportunity for me.
Sure.
I might want to exploit that, or more commonly, Paul just put a meeple right there because he wanted to activate a row of buildings, and I might be able to build a building where by the end of the round I could steal that meeple, and that's I feel like that's a lot of the decision space for me, is like, how am I going to take advantage and get an edge over someone with these things? Because I feel like I have just not sold it enough that like you want to get these meeples on your player boards.
Yeah, no.
You want to get them. They're what
collect them all. The Pokemon.
You want to collect them. That's what drives your engine. And when we say like get them on your board, again, at the end of the round, you just analyze all of these. Well, that's sorry. I just got excited about something else. You know what I also love? You build up this row of cupcakes. You build up a row of buildings, and you're like, now I have domination over this row of buildings, but now you have to make sure there's meeples there to actually
get stuff.
And there just may not be meeples. It's just like it's just one of those games that like has ironic moments all the time. Like, oh, I spent all this time doing this, and I'm not getting any benefit out of it whatsoever. It's a great game. And that's that. So everyone go find it. And I'm going to pull up the closing music here so we can do our thing here. You've been listening to Game Brain, produced and edited by Matthew Robinson, Tom Donnelly, Trey Alsop, and Ben Mandlicker. Special thanks to Daedalus for our incredible music. More on Daedalus at GameBrainPod.com. Thanks to Adam Arpeleg for our incredible graphics. Be sure to check him out on Instagram at Curbuloni or on his website, Curbuloni.com. You can reach us by email at contact@GameBrainPod.com. Thanks for listening, and go play some games with friends or make some friends with games.
Ow.